The first time you log into a computer in the Music Lab, you're going to want to change some things in your default operating system settings that'll make it easier for you throughout the course of the semester. So here in macOS 10, there's a bunch of different things you can set up in the Finder to make it easier to navigate once we start recording in Logic. The first thing that you want to do is to make sure that you're actually in the Finder. So down here in the dock, you've got all of your default applications, and the one on the left is the Finder. Notice when I click on that icon, it opens a Finder window. Notice also that up in the menu bar, this bold menu item to the left says Finder. If you've used macOS a lot before, this is obvious stuff, but not everyone has, and that's totally fine. Whatever application you're in, it's going to have the name of the application up here in the top left-hand corner on the menu bar. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is to go to System Preferences. Now, most things in macOS have multiple ways to get there. One is you can go up to the Apple menu and choose System Preferences, but I'm going to get there from the dock by clicking on the System Preferences dock icon. Once I click on it, it opens, and you see all these different things you can do. We're going to do two different things here in System Preferences today. One of them is mouse, and one of them is sound. First, let's do mouse. So click on mouse, and up pops a picture that looks just like the mouse that you have on your computer. There's two things we're going to want to change here, at least two things. Feel free to change some of these other ones as well, but at the very least do these two. You're going to want to enable right-clicking with your mouse, and the way to do that is to take this drop-down menu and change it to secondary button. That will enable you to right-click with this mouse. Try it out. Right-click on the desktop, and it works. Yay! The other thing that you're probably going to want to do now is to adjust the tracking speed on your mouse. It defaults to a really slow tracking speed, and if you like that, that's great. But I like to move it a little bit faster. It's just easier to mouse around the screen in Logic, especially with the MIDI keyboards kind of in the way on the workstation desks. So once you have secondary button and tracking speed set, click back on this button. This gets you back to the home screen in System Preferences to show all. Now, the next thing we're going to be changing in System Preferences is your sound settings. Now, this is something you have to be aware of because there's no right setting for this. It all depends on what you're trying to do. So you click on sound. Don't worry about sound effects, but this is really important. Here we have our output tab and our input tab. Now on input, you can see the sound of my voice coming in on the input level right here. I'm talking. It's showing levels. That's because I have this set to record through the internal microphone. It's the microphone built into the computer. Now, for those of you that have the workstations that have the Onyx Blackjack mixers, you're also going to see that showing up as a device for both input and output. And if you have one of those computers that has the Blackjack mixer, since it's a digital mixer, you definitely want to be using that for your inputs and your outputs. The one exception would be if you, for some reason, wanted to record from the internal mic in your iMac, that's fine, then you switch it to here. Now, output. Again, if you have the computer that has the Blackjack mixer, you're going to want to have that selected. That will send the sound out through that mixer, which is where your headphones are plugged in. For all the other computers, you're going to want to have it set to internal speakers for output, or headphones rather, because that'll send it out through your mixer, since those analog mixers, the blue Yamaha ones, are hooked up through the headphone jack. So once you've got that configured, you can go back to Show All. Now in System Preferences, I can close System Preferences a couple of ways. One, I can go up to the menu here and I can choose Quit. But notice here there's this little keyboard shortcut, Command Q. It's always easier to use keyboard shortcuts than by doing something with your mouse. So just take my word for that. So I'm just going to hit Command Q on my keyboard, and it's going to close out of System Preferences. So now System Preferences is closed and we're back into the Finder, and there's a couple things we're going to change in Finder. So here we're going to go up to the Finder menu, the application menu, and we're going to choose Preferences. Now in Preferences, we've got 4 different tabs: General, Tags, Sidebar, and Advanced. We're going to start with the General tab. And all these things we change in here are going to affect how Finder windows work. So the first thing you want to do here in the General tab is to change it so that new Finder windows show your home folder. Now, your home folder is going to be your ID number, so like 12345 or whatever it is. So check that and make sure that you have that set for your home folder. So then when you open a Finder window, it defaults to your home folder and it should have your number right up there. Now, the next thing we're going to do here in Preferences is in the Sidebar tab. We're going to clean it up and we're going to enable some things that'll make it easier for you to access the files that you record in Logic. First of all, I really encourage you to uncheck All My Files. All My Files is just messy and it's going to get you into trouble because you're going to think things are in a different place. Again, just trust me on this one for now. So uncheck All My Files, but then this is important. You want to check Music and you want to check your home folder. Now remember, your home folder is going to have your student ID number on that. So once you have those two things checked, music and home folder, you're set and you can close out of Finder Preferences. Now when you open a new Finder window, just click on the Finder icon in the dock. Now in the sidebar, you've got your music folder and your home folder. Now, in the Finder, this shows you all of the folders and files on your computer, and they're stored hierarchically. One thing I would really suggest and encourage you to do at this point is to change the view of the Finder window from the icon view to the column view. One reason this is handy is it helps you to navigate through where all of your files are stored on the computer. And trust me, this will come in handy once we start working in Logic and you do some recordings and then you bounce that audio and you need to find that file to share with a friend or to put on your phone or to put on your website. It'll be much easier if you navigate through in column view. That allows you to find things nested within folders, and it's just a visual way of doing it. And I don't have anything on my desktop or documents right now because I just logged into this computer for the first time. But for example, here in Applications, you can see that I've got a bunch of applications, and here in my Adobe folder, I've got other folders in there. In my Photoshop folder, I've got many layers of folders stored hierarchically. So that's a beneficial view to use the column view. Once you've got that set, then you can go ahead and close out of your window. So just to recap real quick, you want to make sure that in System Preferences, you've got your mouse set to secondary button and you've increased the tracking speed if you want. In Sound, you've experimented with your output and your input settings and you have them set correctly for your computer. And in the Finder, you have it set up so that your Finder windows, when you open them, automatically open to your home folder and appear in column view, allowing you to see the contents of your music folder and your home folder.